have a brush overview for you all. Now, I have collected heaps of brushes over the last couple of years since I started doing makeup. And when I was starting out, I had a lot of trouble finding brushes and knowing which ones were the best and what to use them all for. So today I'm going to start off with the basics, and I'm going to move on to different kinds of brushes. Now, when you're looking for a brush, most importantly, you want to look for something with really soft hair, so it's not going to scratch the surface of the face or feel really uncomfortable when you're using it. So a brush that you can feel when you're going to buy it, when they've got a tester out and you can play with it and see what it's like, they're typically the best ones to go for, because you know what you're getting with them. You want to go with something that has a natural hair. They generally place product a lot better. If you're using something wet like a liquid foundation or concealer, go with a synthetic hair, but if you're using powder, I'd stick to a natural hair. Now, I'm going to start off with face brushes. The first thing you're going to need when you're doing your face is a foundation brush. Now, these come in synthetic and natural hair. The best one to go for a foundation brush, I've found, is a synthetic hair, because it doesn't absorb any liquids, so you're not going to waste a lot of your product. One like this is an Inglot foundation brush. It's a universal foundation brush. You can find one like this in almost every brand. This one is really quite soft. You want to find something soft that isn't pokey, otherwise it's going to scratch the face and you're not going to get the best result out of it. Now, when you're doing foundation, you can always use one of these. Now, this is also an Inglot brush, but it's virtually identical to the MAC one. It's got the natural hair on the bottom for blending, and then the synthetic hair on the top for applying. Now, this is great for liquid foundation because you can just stipple it on and buff it into the skin, and it gives a really flawless airbrushed look. When you're using something like this, it's going to absorb a little bit of product, because down the bottom you've got a natural hair, and all natural hairs absorb product. These are a great universal brush. They can be used for foundation, powder, cream blush, powder blush. It's the same with this one. This one's just slightly smaller, so it's better for blushes, and this one is better for foundations and powders. Then, when you're looking for a powder brush, the best ones to go for are something really quite light and fluffy. This is going to give a really sheer coverage of powder, so you're just going to brush it on and it's going to set the makeup, and it's not going to look overly powdery. One like this is fairly expensive to buy. They're a natural hair, they're not too dense, they're just really light and soft to use. One this size can be used for blush, for powder, and for bronzer. It's a multi-purpose brush. One like this, I would stick more to powder. However, you can compact it up and use it for blush and bronzer. Also with powder, we've got a buff brush. Now, this is the Kevyn Aucoin buff brush. This is great for mineral foundation, but I also use it for blush because it just gives that nice even application, and you can just buff it into the skin and it looks really natural. And when you're looking at powder brushes, you can also get kabukis. Now, these are a lot denser than your typical powder brush. Now, this is an Inglot brush also. This is virtually identical to the MAC kabuki brush, except it's about half the price. So they're really nice brushes to look into. It's really soft and it's really dense. Now, this is the Too Faced kabuki brush. It's a synthetic fibre, so because we're not using it for liquid, it's not going to be a matter of it absorbing product. But when you're buying a synthetic brush, you're looking for really soft bristles, so they're not damaging the skin on the face. And this one's the softest one I've found. The Too Faced brushes are all synthetic because they don't harm animals. Now, a kabuki brush like this, great for minerals. They're great to just throw in your handbag, and they're really easy to use. You just load the brush and buff it all over the face. Now, blush brushes. When you're applying blush, you can get a couple of different kinds. You can get the larger kind of powdery, more powder brushes, the flat top brushes, and then there's these contoured brushes. This is a MAC one and another Inglot one. The white hair I find is a lot more user-friendly because you can tell if you've got leftover product in it. These ones are great for contouring and blush, so they're a multi-purpose brush as well. I've also seen people use these for foundation. I wouldn't recommend it because they are going to absorb a lot of product, but it will give a really nice blended finish. And that's the advantage of using a natural hair brush with a liquid foundation. It's going to give the most natural appearance because it is distributing the product really evenly. Now, another blush brush is one like this. This is double-ended, so you've got the applicator for the blush, and it's just great. It fits right on the cheek of the face, and then you've got more of the contouring end, so it's great for when you want to contour your face, and it's also great for highlighting as well. Now, I have a couple of NARS brushes that don't really fit into a category. This one I have more for contouring. This is really quite thin. They're great brushes to have because you can get right into the hollows of the face. Something like this, if you're using everyday brushes and you're not applying things on other people, you're not doing it for photographic work, something like this you won't need. That's more for a makeup artist. And there's also, they call this the bronzing brush. I find it's more useful for powder. It's more like a kabuki brush with a long handle. Something like this is really dense and it's great for any powder products. And then I have a concealer brush. Now, I don't think getting a MAC concealer brush is worth spending the money. I also use for concealer art brushes. Art brushes are just as helpful. They apply the product the same way, they just look different. And given it looks a bit cheaper, but if nobody's seeing your brushes, it doesn't make a difference. Because I found all of these, I've got art brushes, NARS brushes, and MAC brushes, and they all work the same.
Read my lips.